Once upon a time, a long time ago, or it could have been just yesterday, there was a boy whose name was Nkosnati, and Nkosnati loved to play his drum. Boom, boom, body, boom, boom. Boom, boom, body, boom, boom. Boom, boom, body, boom, boom. Nkosnati lived at the base of a very tall mountain in a village with his mother. And every day he helped his mother to do the work around the home. And it was his job to take the calabash down to the river and fill it with water so that he could bring that back for his mother to do the cooking and the cleaning. He also watched the goats down by the river, and he and his friends liked to play by the river and make little animals out of the clay that they gathered from the riverbanks. At the beginning of the dark, rainy season, the sky clouded and grew very, very dark. The people of the village became fearful, for when they saw those dark clouds, they knew that the dragon might come. They saw the flashes of light from his nostrils, and they heard the roar of the dragon in loud, thunderous clashes. And when he was very angry, the dragon would come over the mountain and bring lashing wind and rain, and sometimes it flooded the people's huts and their land. One morning, Nkosnati met his friend down by the river. They were watching the goats, and they would sit and make little clay animals from the mud on the riverbanks. They enjoyed spending their time together. When suddenly they saw a flock of swallows come from over the mountain. And when Nkosnati saw those birds, he ran after them and said, "Oh, I wish I could fly." But what he didn't realize was that the birds were flying to warn the children that the dragon storm was ahead. When the boys looked up, they saw the dark clouds in the sky, and Nkosnati said, "I must go home and gather my calabash from my mother. You take the goats and all our little clay animals and bring them to the cave, and there you will be safe." And so his friend gathered up the clay animals and the goats, and they could safely watch the storm from the cave. Nkosnati ran home as fast as he could, and he said, "Mother, I must get the calabash and fill it with water, for a bad storm is coming." And his mother said, "Oh, Nkosnati, it is too dark. It is too late. You must not go." But he wouldn't listen, and he said, "You know, sometimes the storm lasts for many days, Mother. We will be in trouble without water to wash and cook. I must go." And Nkosnati's mother tried and tried to convince him, but he wouldn't listen. So she went to the villagers and she asked if they could help convince her son to stay home. But they said, if Nkosnati will not listen, he will have to learn that lesson on his own. Nkosnati knew that he might face the dragon, so he gathered his drum and he found a large stone, and he brought that with him, for he had a plan. Down he went to the edge of the river to fill up his calabash. He could hear in the distance that the dragon was coming. He could see the dragon's nostrils were aflame when bright light flashed through the sky. And Nkosnati could hear the dragon's mighty roar as he was creeping over the edge of the mountain. And Nkosnati tried to be very brave. He knew that he would face the dragon now, but he had a plan. And when the dragon came up over the mountain, Nkosnati held up his hand and said, "Stop!" The dragon was surprised. And he did. He stopped right in his tracks. And then Nkosnati said, "You must be very hungry. I have a large cheese for you. Open up and I will throw it in." And so the dragon opened up his large jaws and Nkosnati threw in the cheese. But it was actually a stone. And when the dragon began to chew it, when his teeth came down on that stone, some of the teeth broke and he spit them out, and the cheese as well. And then he was very, very angry. But Nkosnati said, "If you must eat me, will you promise to only eat me once?" "Ha ha ha," said the dragon. "I will only need to eat you once." "Very well then, I will be very brave," said Nkosnati. And the dragon opened up his jaws, and Nkosnati jumped right in, and the dragon swallowed him in one big bite. The dragon was feeling quite pleased with himself. But then, something strange began to happen. His stomach began to ache, and he felt uneasy. And if you listened, you could hear this sound. Boom, boom, body, boom, boom. Boom, boom, body, boom, boom. Boom, boom, body, boom, boom. It was Nkosnati playing his drum from inside the dragon's belly. "Oh," moaned the dragon, "what is happening to me? Maybe this meal of a little boy does not agree with me." And so he opened up his jaws, and out came Nkosnati in one solid piece. And then he stared at the dragon. With all his courage, he looked at him, and the dragon could not believe that a child so small was able to be so brave. And as the boy watched, 2 big tears dripped from the dragon's eyes. And as the tears fell, the scales fell away from the dragon, when suddenly a beautiful green lady was there where the dragon had been. And she said, "You have released me from my enchantment, and now I can show you my true form, so that you and all the others will be able to remember your bravery. Take what used to be my teeth and plant them in the soil. Water them and tend them with care, and you will see something wonderful in the spring." And then the beautiful green lady spread a fine green mist all over the land, and then she disappeared. Nkosnati's friend had been watching all along, and he was amazed that he had survived the dragon. "Oh, we must tell everyone how brave you were to face the dragon," said the friend. And Nkosnati said, "Yes, we will, but first I must do as I was instructed." And so he gathered up his calabash and the seeds, the teeth, and then they headed home. Oh, how happy Nkosnati's mother was to see him. Oh, she had feared the worst, but her son was safe and had returned to her again. And she said, "Oh, we must tell the villagers about your courage." But he said, "No, first I have something I must do. I must plant these dragon teeth in the soil." He covered them with the earth, and then he watered them and tended them with care. And as time passed, the clouds disappeared, and bright, clear days were ahead. Over time, he continued to care for those dragon teeth, and then one day he saw a shoot pop up from the soil, and then a stalk, and then he saw a blossom at the top. And one day, the flower unfolded so he could see its golden petals. And every year when the daffodils bloom, the villagers come together and they remember the bravery of Nkosnati when he was courageous enough to fight the dragon. And if things have not changed, they are still the same today. Snip, snap, snout. This tale has been told out. Boom, boom, body, boom, boom. 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 Mm-hmm.